taking a little time to feel part of the community, however that might look for you. And even for those of you who it does feel useful to keep your video off, that totally makes sense. I get it. But it's nice if there are just few moments, like right at the beginning or right at the end. Again, just use your own judgment about your scene and whether that feels, appropriate or not. But whatever we can do in this setting to create a sense of community is good. Looking around, putting a note in. And thanks, Jessica, who just reposted in the chat the link to the Sunday document that has some resources for you to use as we look at wise effort, one of the 10 paramis that we've been studying. Now, this is our second week. And just in case people don't realize, we do record. That's why I'm spotlighted. It protects you. You can, of course, choose any way you want to see. You can click in the upper right and make it a gallery view so you see other people. That I'll spotlight so that the recording that gets up on live stream, YouTube live stream, just has me. And we'll be chanting, as we did last Sunday, the Buddha's 5 subjects for frequent recollection, or what we sometimes call the 5 remembrances. And you can find that on the document that's in the chat. And maybe, Jessica, if you'd paste that one more time as more folks come in. And let's do this chant to begin our sitting time. And the 5 remembrances, or the 5 subjects for frequent recollection, it's like a particular kind of medicine, and you just have to decide if it's for you a useful medicine, or how you need to adapt and adjust it so it can be useful, right? The whole point is that middle ground between sleeping through life as if nothing matters, or being too frightened, too activated, that we're not really good for anybody, including ourselves. And so recollecting these 5 subjects that we're going to chant now is meant to activate a wholesome spiritual urgency. You know what? There's something I can do with this life. I don't want to just sleep through this life or live this life on autopilot. I want to wake up. I want to see what's here to see, and see if this is good medicine for you. So I'll ring the bell, and then we'll chant the 5 subjects for frequent recollection. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. I am of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickness. I am of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond dying. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. Thus we should frequently recollect. And for those who are unfamiliar, kama or karma means actions done with intention. So let's take some time and settle into our meditation. Listen to the body. Doing our best to find a stable, relaxed posture for our meditation time, whatever that might look like for us. Taking a few longer, deeper breaths, just as a way of settling and trusting. And meditation, like any action of thought, word, or deed, meditation sets something in motion. That's why we do it. So it's good to check in with our intention. First and foremost, there's this intention that how we pay attention, how the knowing mind knows and what it knows, that it matters, it has consequences. If we just allow the attending mind, the knowing mind to drift and to simply follow its habits, to think about this, look at that, then there are consequences for allowing that to unfold. So in a way, we're here acting on our faith, our confidence, that it really matters. It's really wholesome to wake up, to recognize the present moment. We're not looking for a particular moment or a particular experience to wake up to. We're interested in connecting, sustaining with reality as it actually is, here and now, this activity of the body and the mind, what we call the present moment. And it arises maybe initially just borrowed faith from the Buddhist teachings that the being disconnected, the being unaware of the present moment has led to so many bad, stressful habits of mind. So we're taking our medicine, we're cultivating present moment awareness, this intention to recognize this experience is being felt, being known. And we need some humility that it isn't easy for us to recognize the present moment. We most always get seduced by our thoughts about stuff, the thoughts about the present moment. So, of course, there is this experience of the body sitting, just the physicality of contact, the body on the chair, the experience of pressure, experience of touch, temperature. And so in this very simple way, we can recognize the present moment, The physicality of sitting is being known here and now. And whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, whether it's neutral, whether the mind is knowing in a very open, non-judging way, or the mind is knowing in a reactive, judgmental way. All of that can be recognized. This is how it is now. It feels like this here and now. Can this be okay to be aware of the present moment? And as you'll see, it's not enough to do it in one moment, because experience continually changes. So mindfulness, wisdom, awareness, it's all about this continuity, this sustaining, keeping the present moment in mind. And this is true whether we're using an exclusive, specific meditation object, like being aware of breathing in, being aware of breathing out, or whether you're using a more open awareness style of meditation, being aware of whatever's predominant, one moment at a time. Just learn to recognize these two related efforts. The effort we make, the effort the mind makes to recognize the present moment. This is being known. It's like this now. It's the underlying feeling now. Oh, it feels like this. And the second effort, related effort, is the effort to sustain, to not lose the thread of the present moment, to keep the present moment in mind. And we sustain present moment awareness by recognizing the very real but subtle pleasure, inner pleasure that arises, the pleasure of an inner wholeness, non-fragmentation, that arises when the present moment awareness is being sustained, no matter what's being known. And we also use the opposite, the stress, the tightness that arises when the mind is distracted and, in a sense, getting pushed around by its fears, its likes and dislikes, is attached, identified, reacts to its own identifications, mental proliferation. We recognize it's stressful. The heart, the body, mind gets tight. We could consider these two the carrot and the stick. How can we feed, support the wholesome pleasure of being present? And how can we avoid and abandon the stress of being distracted and caught up in the mind's conceptions? And all of this arises because we care about this life naturally. So this remaining 25 minutes or so, We'll continue in silence, and it will be up to each of us, as incompetent as we might feel at times, it will be up to each of us to cultivate the garden of our heart and to plant seeds to relate in ways that lead to this pleasure of release, and to avoid planting seeds that lead to stress and being tight. And we don't actually need more teachings. We just need to be sensitive to what's getting set in motion, what's getting laid down in the heart. Seeds of release and ease and openness and freedom, or seeds of contraction and heaviness. And it's this non-judging, mindful awareness, wisdom awareness that creates the possibility of finding our way, because we're illuminating the way it is in the body and in the heart and mind. So we see directly, we know directly, we feel directly the kinds of seeds that are being planted, helpful or not helpful. So let's continue now in silence. So remember, we're just taking the time, this quiet time with the body relatively still, to learn something about the effort that's needed to recognize the present moment and the effort that's needed to sustain present moment awareness. And by doing that last piece, to sustain present moment awareness, we're going to learn all kinds of things about what it is that interrupts the continuity of present moment awareness. So just make that simple, wholesome resolve to learn how to recognize the present moment, not too much, not too little effort, and how to sustain, how to have periods where there's a continuity of this present moment awareness. And again, it could be done with an exclusive meditation object like mindfulness of breathing in and breathing out, or it could be done with a more open awareness style of practice, being aware of whatever's predominant in any moment. Connecting and sustaining a present moment awareness. This is what we're learning about. And for the last minute or two, we're not judging what the mind knows, just interested in connecting and sustaining present moment awareness and discerning the kind of effort that's helpful in the sustaining of this non-judging present moment awareness. Just for another minute. And take a moment, adjust the body. You can even stretch a little if that's helpful. Nice to be with everyone this morning here in Minneapolis and all of you around. We have a few people in the building. For those of you who live in the area, remember, you're welcome to come to the center at 10:30 on Sundays, a little bit before, and sit with others. The people in the building are watching the program on a big screen in the meditation hall. And then you can do the small group check-in in person instead of in the Zoom groups. And if you're new, we generally, at the end of the program at 11:45 here Central Time, then either Shannon Gibney or Nancy Bowler help organize small discussion groups for about 15 to 20 minutes for the community that can stay and are interested in meeting in groups of 3. And these last couple of weeks, maybe for one more week, we're looking at the Buddhist teachings on wise effort. And this is a really central topic. And I think I maybe mentioned this last week, but, different in the sort of Buddhist cosmology, there are many Buddhas, people who teach these teachings. And this particular Buddha that we've been listening to these last 2,500 years, this human being, given his temperament and his strengths, he's considered to be, somebody who really relied on skillful effort to support the awakening. And we tend to interpret that idea of making skillful effort, even if we put that word skillful in front of it, we tend to equate efforting with this sort of muscular kind of effort. So instead of saying right effort, I usually use the word wise, a discerning effort, an effort that actually helps lead us in the direction that the heart seeks to go. And I don't know about your heart, but my heart seeks the direction of release, not the direction of contraction, wakefulness, feeling burdened by life. Initially, we wrongly think that in order to feel release, I need to fix the world, fix my partner, fix my community, fix my body, fix my personality. And in the Buddhist tradition, it's like getting tired of stepping on sharp stones and deciding to cover the entire earth with a nice carpet. So no more sharp stones. That would be a lot of effort and completely undoable, as opposed to building a really good pair of shoes. And then the sharp stones aren't such a problem. And so that's the simile for doing our practice wisely. We're making a very particular effort, not the unworkable effort to fix everything so that somehow, now I can relax. Now I can be at ease. Now I can be kind. now I can be intimate because the world is just the way I like it. Well, good luck with that. We've cumulatively, like if we added up all of us here listening, all the little and big ways we try to fix the world, fix each other, fix ourselves, endless. And what has all of that so-called wrong or unhelpful efforting, what wisdom can we distill from all that unhelpful efforting? This is not the way. This is not the way. So the effort we make is very real, and it's in moments a very muscular, intense, fierce kind of efforting. But it really relies, this is a path of understanding or wisdom. So that means the effort we make that's going to be skillful is always going to be always requiring this wisdom. And like it or not, when we begin our practice, the wisdom element isn't that strong. But doesn't mean we don't use the wisdom element because it's still somewhat feeble. We borrow some wisdom, and sometimes we borrow wisdom from folks we shouldn't be borrowing wisdom from, but we do our best. And it's okay because we'll learn along the way. I think I left us last week with the question, for the small group discussions and just generally as a homework reflection, to discern, to figure out in our own experience, what kind of effort is required? And you could check right now, what kind of effort for me is required to recognize right now the present moment, or to recognize that the present moment is here and now being known, being felt. See, the habit, the very deep habit of the mind is to be, in a sense, unaware of the present moment, not aware, not recognizing, oh, this is a moment of experience being known, being felt. And we don't realize how much wisdom it takes to recognize the present moment. See, we have this very strong, ignorant idea, oh, I know the present moment. But we don't actually, in a sense, open and recognize the present moment. Because when we do, it's a little surprising. It's just something being known. You could say that recognizing the present moment is always surprising, because it's always more simple and profound than we would ever conceive it to be, even though it's not somehow, what we think the present moment is, I guess, has some relationship to the present moment, but it's not the present moment. Because being, when we say being with the present moment, being aware of the present moment, it really is that, without needing these words in your mind, this is being known, this is being felt. It's just, and that's really important. It's like, this is being known is complete in the sense of it's inclusive of the reality of the present moment. It's an experience being known. And so this is really the first effort. And like I mentioned, it takes a lot of practice, because the wise in the wise effort isn't so wise. So we have a lot of missteps, a lot of misses. And there's an interesting interaction with a student at the time of the Buddha who was a musician. His name was Sona. And he was doing his walking practice, making a lot of effort, but not necessarily wise effort. And he had, blistered his feet, and then there were open sores on his feet because he just kept doing his walking meditation practice. And the Buddha shows up and says something, "Dear Sona, isn't it true that before you became a monk practicing, you were, you were a musician and played this stringed instrument, I think it was called the vina." And Sona acknowledge, yep, that's true. And so the Buddhist gave him the simile. Well, what was it like when the strings were too tight? And you said, well, it didn't sound good at all, and sometimes they would snap if they were too tight. And then the Buddha said, well, how did it work when the strings were too loose? And Sona said, well, it didn't work good at all. It sounded lousy. And then, the Buddha sort of says, yeah, just so. When you're practicing, you want to, we find skillful effort by really getting clear about when we're holding back, when we're expecting things to unfold, awakening, releasing, learning to unfold naturally. We have these ideas that I just go along with the flow and I'll become a wise human being. No, going along with the flow, what we might call, laziness, or the absence of the application of our mind to the task of awakening, that just leads to me doing what I've done before and getting the results I've gotten before. But on the other hand, if in this sort of personal way, I think I'm going to do it, I'm done with being an ignorant, unskillful, stressed out human being. I'm going to fix this matter once and for all. I'm going to take these teachings, I'm going to apply myself. Well, that also leads to stress and, any kind of striving, any kind of application of a self-centered view. In spiritual life, the ends need to line up with the means. So the means, in the sense of how we're practicing, have to be in alignment with where we're attempting to go. And in Buddhist practice, we're attempting to go in the direction of a wisdom that understands deeply the way it is. So it's always that chicken and egg. So that means the means has to be applying whatever that wisdom we have, we apply it to the way we make effort. In a way, you could say that is part of wise effort, is bringing whatever wisdom we have, whether it's our own direct wisdom, learned from our experience, or borrowed wisdom that we've acquired from being inspired by some words from the Buddha or from a teacher that makes sense to us, but isn't really based on our direct experience yet. We take that wisdom, as imperfect as it might be, and we use it to guide how we make effort, the kind of effort we make, what direction we're aiming for. And what we get from our elders, from the women, the men, the folks before us, all the way back to the Buddha, is effort is in the direction of this balanced, stable, non-judging present moment awareness. And the nice thing about that is, just on an intellectual level, it makes sense. I have a human life. Makes sense. I'd want to be clearly, groundedly connected with the way it is. It sort of has an elegance that the resolution of my bound up heart, my fearful, greedy, in denial, tight heart, is to learn how to more and more and more be in alignment, be connected, and to sustain that intimacy, that clearly comprehending, not in a cognitive sense, clearly comprehending the way it is. That just makes so much sense. So then, even on that superficial level, relatively superficial level, I can have a lot of borrowed faith. I'm going to check this out. Does this stability of present moment awareness lead in a direction that I can directly experience, seems the right way, seems wholesome, seems in the direction of peace and ease and skillfulness and resilience and kindness? This is something we can actually test out for us, and not only can, but really need to check out for ourselves, so that our faith goes initially from being borrowed to being direct. It really is arising directly from what we've learned. When I'm disconnected, when I'm not aware, when I'm lost in my thoughts and my conceptions, pushed around by likes and dislikes and mental proliferation, how does that work for me? Not so well, if I check in. When I have some continuity of present moment awareness to a greater and greater degree, how does that work for me? How is my heart when it's like that? More at ease, more space, more nimbleness and resilience, more capacity to contribute healing as opposed to contribute more harm and suffering in the world. In an ancient Buddhist text, it says that wisdom is perfected by the arousing of energy. Right? So that's good. Like when we have a deepening of understanding, there is this natural arousing. Let me do something about what I'm coming to understand. And it's this engine. Some of you know about this engine of awakening in the Buddhist tradition called the faculties, the five faculties. It's one that's used a lot in early Buddhism. And it's not just a linear progression from faith to effort to mindfulness to the stability of awareness, concentration or samadhi to wisdom, but it's also circular. When we have some confidence, some faith that it matters, then we make some effort. And to whatever degree there's some wisdom, we're going to make effort to be present. Because part of the initial faith that we have on the path is I don't know what's going on, right? So that's, we may think, well, that's not very useful, but that actually is very useful to have confidence that I don't yet know what's going on is really useful. That's a kind of wisdom, that humility. And then I have faith in that wisdom. Yeah. My life has taught me that I don't know what's up and what's down. I don't really know how to be happy yet. I don't know how to contribute to happiness around me. So I'll make the effort to be more awake, and I'll stabilize that wakefulness, and I'll learn a thing or two. And I'll have even more faith and confidence in what my experience is coming to show me. And I'll be inspired to make more effort, more continuous effort, applying myself to what I'm coming to understand, faintly initially. And we keep feeding, the inspiration of faith gets channeled into this application of mind that's all about supporting the stability of present moment awareness. That's actually how effort is defined, making the exertions that stabilize present moment awareness. And it's talked about in terms of preventing qualities of mind that will interrupt the stability, the present moment awareness, abandoning the unhelpful qualities of mind that are already interrupting or disturbing the continuity of awareness, developing the wholesome qualities of mind that will help stabilize present moment awareness, and maintaining those wholesome qualities that are already there. And you probably know, early Buddhism is very systematic. So you can remember this is just a more specific way that effort, persistence, exertion is talked about in early Buddhism, making the effort to prevent and abandon unwholesome qualities of mind that aren't really serving the purpose of waking up, of seeing more clearly, and developing and maintaining the wholesome qualities of mind that are supporting. So, thinking that some nice sense experience is going to make a real difference, all I need is a good TV show, so that desiring, that attachment to the desire for a sense pleasure, it's not saying that that sense experience is bad. It's just saying that the desiring is based on a lie, that having that nice experience of watching an interesting show isn't going to make a big difference. And the desiring it, the needing it, is stressful. And it causes the mind to miss the point, which is there is something that actually helps. Developing and sustaining mindful awareness. Now, initially, it's totally okay to roll your eyes at that. It's like, and especially these days, imagine if we all wrote into the chat, the 10 ways that we're inspired to take care of ourselves. There's like so many different therapeutic modalities, body modalities, healing modalities, supplements, healing vacations. Yeah, even like the one that's kind of been popular lately is exposing the body to extreme cold temperatures. Have you heard of that? And I can imagine it's like a sauna, it's sort of toning to play with extremes. So if you can do that with heat, it probably has some benefit. Who knows? I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying there are endless number of things that distract us. And it's not that there isn't some benefits from taking what is the substance? I've been spraying it in my throat lately from bee, propolis, is it called? That has some antibacterial qualities, evidently. There's endless things. A good friend of mine in the community gave me a chunk of chaga, which comes off of a birch tree about 20 feet up. It's a fungus that is evidently, I read, has more antioxidants than any other substance on the planet. And you make a tea out of it and you can get tinctures from it too. But so, and this is what gets our attention. It's sort of like, I'll fix myself this way, I'll fix myself that way, I'll do this, I'll do that. And we get swept away because there's no end to it. And it's not to say that those things about changing our diet or doing more exercise or cultivating this or abandoning that aren't useful. But when we hear something like, there is this way, and it's primarily based on the cultivation and the development of present moment awareness. Until that habit, that new habit to be present, to sustain present moment awareness, becomes the dominant habit, dominant force in the mind. The way that Joseph Goldstein, one of my important teachers, talks about this, as some of you have heard me say this, initially it's like the bowl is upside down, and our practice is we find the marble and we put it on the top of the upside down bowl. And this is a perfectly round bowl, like the bell is, and you put the marble here and it immediately rolls off and falls under a table, and you take a couple of minutes, you track it down and you put the marble back on the underside of the bowl and it immediately rolls off, and you track it down, you get it, and you bring it back. That's a nice simile for our practice, isn't it? It's a lot of that sort of finding the present moment. We're in that space of mental proliferation, and eventually we find ourselves, oh, this is how it is. It's like this, it feels like this. We're back, and then we're immediately gone. We roll right off into the dusty corners of our mind. And then we find our way back, and then we're off. And then eventually, Joseph's simile, the bowl goes this way, and we put the marble there. Now, when the bowl gets knocked around, the marble moves, but its tendency, its habit now is to naturally reestablish the center. Oh, It's like this now. It's just this experience being known. And that's why we do all this seemingly, well, not seemingly, all this difficult work of practice. We're cultivating a lifestyle, the new primary habit of mind that recognizes, because of habit, oh, it's like this. This is an experience being known. And it's really important to see that as a wisdom awareness, because it requires the wisdom to understand that any moment, this moment, any moment is an experience being known. It's profoundly characterized by a experience that's being known. And that insight, that understanding strips away so much ignorance where the mind projects, imagines the present moment is more than what it is. It's simply something being known moment by moment. So when we're working, for example, with an exclusive meditation object, being aware of the breath coming in, being aware of the breath going out, or being aware of the whole body, being aware of hearing, being aware of walking. So whatever meditation anchor we might be training with to support the connecting and sustaining of present moment awareness, that's what we're doing. Breathing in is being known. It's an experience being known here and now. Being known, being known, being known. Breathing out is being known, being known, being known, being known. Thinking is being known. Feeling is being felt. Thinking is being known. Breathing in is being known, being known, being known. And in doing that, insight grows. We stabilize that. Insight follows. Insight, deepening of wisdom, inspires more energy. More energy gets applied to the preventing, abandoning, developing, and maintaining. It's doing the work of purifying, developing the mind. One of the simplest, most famous statements from the Buddha, just the way he sums up all the Buddhist teachings, not just this Buddha, all the Buddhist teachings. Avoid what is unskillful, cultivate what is skillful, and develop the mind, develop the heart. So we have to make some hard choices sometimes. Like when we say it's unskillful, we're just saying like watching TV, being desirous of food, of entertainments. Not that those things are bad, but to build a life around that, that's not helpful. That's not skillful. So I'm abandoning, not that I'm never going to eat nice food or never watch a fun show. I'm abandoning the ignorant idea that this leads to happiness. I still might watch a show, but I'm working on abandoning the wrong idea that it matters in the end. Maybe some entertainments could be a useful refreshment, like a way of resting. But that's for each of us to check out. Is it helpful? We'll find out if it's helpful. It's like I notice every once in a while when there is some entertainment, some show that I find exceptionally well written and wholesome and entertaining, at the end, I feel hungry for more of it. That's what's left over in my heart. I want more entertainment like this. You know, who's going to make the next show that's worth watching? And how many bad shows do I have to watch before I stumble upon the next good show? Right? Same with food, same with all these things. So what eventually, slowly, at least in my case, happens is that more and more dispassion arises around these sense experiences. Hating them, being afraid of them doesn't help. But thinking that there's still an answer there also doesn't help. And the heart gravitates towards what seems to really be in my own best interest and all of our best interests, which is to wake up, to learn to see, to feel what we're not seeing and feeling. So we have to avoid, we have to abandon what's not skillful, and we have to cultivate what's skillful. We're cultivating the skillful means the qualities of the mind that support this balanced, kind, non-judging, fearless, fierce in moments awareness that is just willing to feel and see the way it is. And skillful action comes out of that. Like a lot of times we want to know what to do to deal with injustice in our society, or what to do to make my relationship with my partner healthier, what to do with my teenage child, how to be a skillful parent. But I don't know about you, but life doesn't really give us that kind of certainty. How to be a parent, how to be a partner, how to be a good citizen when there's so much injustice. But what we can do is we can cultivate the kind of sensitivity and humility and presence that we'll find ourselves moving more and more in a direction where our actions, our speech, our thoughts contribute to the healing, contribute to non-harming, as opposed to making things worse. And one more thing about wisdom, effort, the effort to be wise, the effort to deepen understanding. A lot of times, just the way our mind has been formed, the way we conceive of things, we think of wisdom or understanding or knowledge as a possession. Like, oh yeah, I'm wise. And as if there's a me, a self, that has this product, wisdom, like my gold in my little vault. And it's mine, and no one can take it. This is my wisdom. But the way the Buddha says this is when one practices, wisdom grows. And when we do not practice, wisdom wanes. Because the latent tendencies of our mind are going to reassert themselves. And if there aren't any latent tendencies, then our practice is done. But until there are no latent tendencies, we have to keep the practice going. And this is like one of the heartbreaking things we see in our own practice, and maybe sometimes see in other people's practice, where they've really gained some wisdom. And then the person continues on in their life, or we continue on in our life, in a sense, banking on some insight we had 10, 15, 20 years ago. And it gets a little pathetic after a while, that we're kind of drawing on some faint memory that isn't really real anymore in the moment. And it's like the attachment to that understanding we once imagined having is, there's a kind of desperation and stinkiness to that. So the wisdom, if it's real, it has to be fresh. So I notice this a lot in my own heart, after some big insights, the mind sort of glomming on to the past. Oh yeah, back then when I climbed Mount Everest or whatever, rode my bike across the country or did this amazing thing. As opposed to, well, what if that is true here and now? How might that be true here and now? How is that actually alive here and now? How can it be renewed here and now? I mean, we wouldn't do this around kindness and compassion. I remember when I was 6 years old and I did this to my little brother, and somehow that, that's sort of the question is like, what does kindness look like now? How am I being kind to myself and others now, or not so? So just end with one more piece here. Let me just find it before we break into small groups. This is from the Dhammapada. And as I read this, I was reminded of Thich Nhat Hanh's words, this wonderful Vietnamese Buddhist monk who's been teaching in the West for many decades now and is back at home in Vietnam late in his life. He said, our only enemy is forgetfulness. And this is the second chapter in the Dhammapada, and it kind of speaks to this point here. And this is just, the Dhammapada is a collection of verses from early Buddhism, some from the Buddha and some from some of the other wise people around the time of the Buddha. Vigilance is the path to the deathless. Negligence is the path to death. The vigilant do not die. The negligent are as if already dead, like autopilot. And it goes on, knowing this distinction, vigilant sages rejoice in vigilance, delighting in the field of the wise ones, absorbed in meditation, persevering, always steadfast. The wise touch nibbana, the ultimate rest from toil. Glory grows for a person who is energetic and mindful, pure and considerate in action, restrained and vigilant, and who lives the Dhamma, lives in alignment with the way it is. And it continues, through effort, vigilance, restraint, the wise person can become an island no floods will overwhelm. Unwise, foolish people give themselves over to negligence. The wise protect vigilance as the greatest treasure. Vigilance is a nice word. It means kind of to illuminate, right? Vigil is to bring light. So to illuminate what? To illuminate the way it is, to illuminate the present moment. Really nice being with everybody today. If you don't mind just staying for a moment, a couple of announcements. There's a half-day retreat on September 11th, Saturday afternoon, encouraging people at this time to get on the weekly email. If you don't know how to do that, you go to the Common Ground Meditation Center's website, and under community, which is one of the main menu items, you'll see join our email list. And you'll get one email a week from us with program updates and other significant news for the community. And on September 18th, myself and several other leaders that identify as male or masculine will be leading a community conversation around masculinity at Common Ground's retreat property. That's Saturday, the 18th, 9:30 to 4. We'll help you organize carpooling to come out for that. And we've been doing this for several years, a couple times a year. Now we'll have a longer period of time to have conversation about what it looks like, what it could be like to have our male conditioning and to be a force for good in the world. And many other things coming up. Check the Common Ground online calendar for that.